Sick of Myself, directed by Kristoffer Borgli. Okay, so the computer is making noise. There's a fan that is really revving up on the computer, and it's probably picking up on sound. Sick of Myself, directed by Kristoffer Borgli, 2023. 2022 festival rounds, 2023 US release. So Sick of Myself follows Signe and Thomas, a young couple, and they're in a very competitive relationship, a toxic relationship. Thomas, he's rising in the underground or contemporary art world, and he like takes furniture, it's stolen furniture art is what he does, and he's making a name for himself. And Signe, she doesn't like this. She wants eyes on her. And in order to stay on top, she takes things to the absolute extreme, mainly through this illegal Russian anti-anxiety drug that has really severe side effects when abused. And that's all I'm going to say, okay? It's funny, it's gross, it's dark, a little bit scary in moments. I would even call this a horror movie in some senses. Dark comedy horror. Absolutely, yes, horror, because there's some elements where it goes really hard and very dark, and it does not hold back. This was on John Waters' end of the year favorites list in 2022, and that makes absolute sense. Their bodily fluids flowing quite heavily. I'm thinking about moments. It was really gross. I mean, it totally, this movie is completely unpredictable. It is constantly pushing further. On top of that, it looks absolutely beautiful. Oh, also, Oslo Pictures. This is an Oslo Pictures production. And their first big movie that they the majority produced, that they were the majority producer on, The Worst Person in the World, which also took place in Oslo. And it almost has the same visual flair to it, visual style to it. I loved the cinematography in this movie, and it was definitely shot on film situation. I believe it had to have been. I don't think it was like a post film look thing. I think it was shot on film. It's constantly in each shot slowly moving in, zooming in, pushing in. We're constantly moving at a very slow rate. The specific look of this movie is so my thing. I love it so much. Like, it's something I could rewatch just to look at. And the cinematography is from Benjamin Loeb. He did Mandy, After Yang, Pieces of a Woman. I'm definitely, he's on the list. He's on the list of movies to watch if he did the cinematography for, because this is like my favorite looking movie of the year thus far. Just a really great satire, social satire. A look at the self-obsessed world that we live in, the internet culture. I mean, it's all the message, it's clear, it's there, but it's the way, it's how far it pushes everything. And this main character, not very relatable, in that who in the hell would ever do this? Is the kind of thing. Each decision that she makes is so wrong and so like maddening. But that's what makes it work for me, that it's so exaggerated. But also, if you think about it, maybe it isn't too far off. And there's definitely people who have, I don't know, like disfigured themselves or something for attention. Or I always think of, this isn't like in the same realm as that. I mean, it kind of is actually. That lady who, in that documentary, the woman who wasn't there, that just lied and said that her husband died in the 9/11 attacks, and she rose to the top of this fan club and was gaining so much sympathy from everyone, and she soaked it all in. She loved it, and it came out that her lie kind of imploded in on itself. I so highly recommend that documentary. I've returned to it so much because I love that kind of thing. Just watch a lie fall apart. And then it's just so interesting to look at this person and think, how could you do this? How could you do this? And it's the same thing in this. It's very difficult not to be so invested in where in the hell, how far will she go? How far will she go? And she goes. She goes extremely far. The makeup effects in this movie, the prosthetics, because there's like some body horror elements to this that are really horrific. That is actually where the scary aspect is coming from for me, because it's like pain, visceral pain that you can see. And the makeup is just so well done. It looks so real. There are no faults. There are no seams to the prosthetics in this movie. Definitely one of the more interesting central characters I've seen in quite some time. I was actually getting vibes of like Safe, Todd Haynes' Safe, in the way this all kind of plays out. So this is directed by Kristoffer Borgli, Norwegian director. He made a lot of short films, okay, some music videos, but his last movie before this, or his feature debut, Drib, from 2017. I thought it was pretty funny. I watched it recently, and it's a hybrid documentary, which I really like those. I love that kind of thing. I think that there's so much that you can do with that. So it's focused on Kristoffer Borgli's real life friend Amir, who was this performance artist. He would make viral videos by like going up to people on the street and getting into fights, provoking them. But I think it was all like set up, right? Trying to go viral was his whole thing. And so this documentary is about, I guess, the true story of how he almost became the face of a really huge energy drink. And Drib is like the stand-in, the energy drink, because they weren't allowed to actually use the brand name, you know? And it's really funny. It's one of those things where who knows how much of this stuff really happened? Probably not a lot of it, but they could just do whatever they want with it. Make up these weird situations behind the scenes, talking to the higher ups of this energy drink company, and just totally making fun of the goddamn LA culture. So the movie plays like a close-up situation. It's the real guy. He wanted to be part of this movie, and he's reenacting, what he went through there. And there's just some really quirky situations. Oh, Brett Gelman is in it, and he's really great. He's really funny, and he's like the standout. Also, Adam Pearson, this guy who was in Under the Skin, which he talks about in this movie. He's like, I just made this movie Under the Skin. It's really interesting. We get some cool conversations like that. But he has his time to shine here. He's really funny. It has a really fun, energetic style to it. I do recommend. He's also made a bunch of short films. In 2021, he made Ear, Aaliyah Shawkat Alert. I would definitely compare his style, his humor to like Alan Resnick. Absolutely Alan Resnick-esque. I would place them in the same category. In fact, I would not be surprised if they've like talked, or perhaps friends. Former cult member hears music for the first time from 2020 is the most Alan Resnick one, where it's exactly that. These people, this documentary crew is showing this girl music, and then all of a sudden she slams her head on this table, and then she becomes stuck. Very, this house has people living in it. His shorts, some of them include Al Warren, who is one of his friends, frequent collaborator, and he actually has a new movie coming out too. It's called Dogleg, and I really want to see it. It's the first produced movie from Brain Dead Studios. In Los Angeles, in Fairfax, they have like their own movie theater. They're like a company that does different things. I'm not sure exactly. I think that they make clothes. There's like a restaurant attached. But they have really cool programs at that theater. And the sign, I absolutely love it. This cool neon sign. But Dogleg, I want to see. The poster for it is this Nashville German poster callback. And it has like Angela Trimber, Bridie Elliott, Kristoffer Borgli is in it. And it's an LA set comedy about a filmmaker struggling to find his fiance's lost dog. And it's told in vignette format. I give a high recommendation to Sick of Myself. I rate 4 stars via Letterboxd. I want to watch it again. If there is a Blu-ray, I'm buying instantly. And very exciting, his next movie, Dream Scenario, it's coming from A24, starring Nicolas Cage. Listen, Kate Berlant. Yeah, Kate Berlant. She actually did a Q&A with Kristoffer Borgli for one of the Sick of Myself screenings, but she's one of my favorite people ever. I think she's hilarious. Oh, they also did a really fun thing for the marketing of Sick of Myself. I was scrolling on Instagram, and I came across a profile that said Lidexol, and it was advertising the little yellow pill from Universe of Movie, and this wellness, medication, anti-anxiety medication. And so it was this post where it was talking about this movie, Sick of Myself. It's ruining our image. It is portraying our product in a negative light. And we want to take the movie down before it's seen by more people. So it's this fun, getting attention, people thinking, oh, I need to seek out this movie then before they take it away. Right? And it's almost crossing a little bit of a line, I feel. But definitely in line with the movie and the morally corrupt choices of the movie, of the central character, where there's people commenting on these saying, "Oh God, we stand with you here, okay? For the mental health matters." There's also a website where you can like inquire, send in a message. Anyways, I think that's really fun. I love that. With Beau is Afraid, how they did the whole MW ARG alternate reality game, which I made a TikTok series on. I absolutely did. This here MW Mona Wasserman logo, I love it so much. I love that they do that. I think that more movies should do that. And look, it's happening. It's happened twice with these two movies so close together. I also really wanted to talk about Utopia. I believe it's U.S. distribution, okay? Distribution label Utopia. They've put out some movies that I really have loved. I built a trust with them. They've built a trust with me, okay? And so every time they acquire a new movie, I'm very interested in that movie. And it just so happens that a lot of the time, it's something I end up really liking. Okay, so that's what I mean with the trust. They have built this really cool catalog of movies. I can actually show you guys what I have physically, because they do physical media too through OCN distribution on vinegarsyndrome.com partner label tab. Okay, Utopia distro. And they've been around for a couple of years now. I want to say like their first physical release, or the company as a whole started in the last like 3 years or something. That's what I'm thinking, like 2021 or something. I've got a number of their movies physically. Let's take a look. Martha, A Picture Story. This is a documentary. They actually focus on documentaries a bit too. It's like one of their focuses. Music documentaries, especially. I've never watched this yet, Martha, A Picture Story, but she's a photographer in New York that I think took pictures of like graffiti and stuff. This is a music documentary, Polystyrene. I Am a Cliche. Polystyrene doc. And these beautiful slip cases that are matte slip cases that are really gorgeous. This one's called Moments Like This Never Last. I love this. About like a graffiti artist in New York whose life ended tragically at like 20. He's in the 27 club. Yeah. I also haven't watched this. As you heard, Paper. I haven't watched this one. We're All Going to the World's Fair. This movie was quite a hit. I really love this movie. Felt really exciting and fresh and new. A really like raw, real take on growing up with the internet and the loneliness of that. Being an outcast and turning to the internet for community. Okay, but a horror movie vibe. It's a quiet horror movie. It's not, I think a lot of people, maybe you could go in expecting one thing. It has this cool, look at that. It says, "You are in trouble, Casey. And this one has like her glowing face on it. This glows in the dark, by the way. But oopsies, that's interesting. Wait, yeah, that was weird. Okay. Freak Scene, The Story of Dinosaur Jr. music documentary, very interesting. In Between Girl, I watched this one. It isn't open, that's correct, but I watched it on VOD, and it's really cool to own it. This is a really coming-of-age movie from a unique perspective. All right. American Rap Star, I also have not watched this one. Music documentary about lo-fi young rappers emerging from Trump's America. Okay. Meet Me in the Bathroom, I've also watched this one. I really liked it, about the indie music scene in the early 2000s in New York. There's some really cool footage of like bands hanging out together and coming up together. That's really fun. Jane by Charlotte, a documentary by Charlotte Gainsbourg, and it's focused on, her mom. And I haven't watched this one yet. Gaspar Noé's Vortex. I thought it was really awesome when they picked this movie up. I mean, they've really just made quite a name for themselves. And so I'm just very excited every time something else comes up. Okay, this is the Gaspar Noé, the dementia couple, split screen, heavy. Gaspar Noé Outlier. Gaspar Noé Outlier, I would say. It's not as like rough or like, intense. I mean, it is in moments, but not really. It's his more human, emotional kind of situation. One of their newest releases, The Civil Dead. I really liked this one. A buddy comedy, quirky buddy comedy, ghosty situation. And this one's by Clay Tatum and what's the other guy's name? Whitmer Thomas. They're best friends. Clay Tatum directed this, but like they wrote it together, and the chemistry shines through. I highly recommend that one. L.A. set buddy comedy. And then this one is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's called Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets, and it's kind of a hybrid documentary where we're gathering all these people. The situation is this dive bar in Las Vegas. It's closing. There's one night remaining, and all the regulars are gathering there to just kind of celebrate, to say farewell. But really, it's not an actual bar. These people aren't really attendees of the bar. It's people that the directors met who are brothers. The directors are brothers, the Ross brothers, but they kind of met these interesting personalities and brought them together in this situation. But they are just they're not acting, right? I mean, the camera's there, but they're just being themselves. And so a lot of really interesting conversations come up. It's a bit sad. And it's just very, very interesting big personalities. And I love it so much. And the jukebox music that's playing throughout, it's just comes together in a really beautiful way. I highly recommend that movie, Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets. And this is actually how I first came to know of Utopia. I actually think this is their first release, their first physical release. Perhaps their first movie that they distributed. Could be. It's plausible. And that's all that I own, but they have quite a bit more. Definitely check it out on Vinegar Syndrome, their lineup. And they picked up Divinity, which played at Sundance, which I thought was pretty interesting. This mixed medium experimental sci-fi